Have you ever made a choice you thought was small, only for it to spiral into something you could never have imagined? Mathilde Loisel is the kind of character you can't help but feel conflicted about. She's beautiful, charming, and born into a modest middle-class life, but her beauty feels like a curse to her. In her eyes, she was meant for more, for glittering banquets, crystal chandeliers, and sparkling jewels. Her husband, Monsieur Loisel, is gentle and kind-hearted, but his modest means only fuel her dissatisfaction. She resents him, not for who he is, but for the life he represents. Mathilde is trapped, longing for a world that remains tantalizingly out of reach. One evening, Monsieur Loisel comes home with a surprise, an invitation to a grand ball at the Ministry of Education. It's the kind of event where society's elite will gather. Exactly the kind of luxurious dream Mathilde has spent her life yearning for. Her husband hopes the invitation will lift her spirits, but instead, it backfires. She's distraught. What's the point of attending without a gown and jewels to match the splendor of the event? Her husband, desperate to please her, makes a sacrifice. He uses his savings, meant for a hunting trip, money he had carefully set aside for a modest pleasure of his own, and buys Mathilde a stunning dress. But even this isn't enough for her. She feels incomplete, empty without the sparkle of expensive jewellery to accompany her look. Her desperation leads her to Madame Forestier, a wealthy friend who agrees to lend her a diamond necklace for the occasion. The night of the ball is everything Mathilde dreamed of. Wearing her elegant gown and glittering necklace, she becomes the centre of attention, basking in the admiration of everyone around her. For one night, she's not the dissatisfied clerk's wife. She's a queen, the epitome of sophistication and allure. Her fantasies have temporarily become her reality, and she loves every moment of it. But her joy is fleeting. When Mathilde comes home, euphoric from her night of triumph, she discovers the necklace is missing. Panic sets in. Together, she and her husband search tirelessly, retracing their steps, questioning cab drivers and scouring the streets. But it's nowhere to be found. When faced with the prospect of admitting the loss to Madame Forestier, Mathilde's pride wins out. To confess would mean acknowledging her mistake, a humiliation she cannot bear. Instead, she and her husband make a decision that seals their fate. They will replace the necklace, purchasing an identical one to hide the truth. The cost? 36,000 francs, an astronomical sum far beyond their means. What follows is a decade of relentless hardship. To afford the replacement necklace, they take out massive loans, plunging themselves into poverty. Their once comfortable middle-class life becomes a distant memory. Every day brings new struggles. Monsieur Loisel works multiple jobs. Mathilde takes on grueling labour, washing clothes and scrubbing floors to pay their debts. Her beauty fades, her hands roughen, and the bitterness of their sacrifice becomes etched into every aspect of their lives. What's worse? Mathilde feels the sting of knowing her suffering is self-inflicted, born from her own vanity and pride. Finally, 10 years later, their debt is repaid. The weight of their financial burden lifts, but the scars of their struggle remain. Mathilde, now aged and worn, encounters Madame Forestier again by chance. For years, she had avoided her friend, terrified that her secret might be exposed. But with the debt behind her, she decides it's time. Mathilde confesses everything, losing the necklace, sacrificing a decade of life to replace it, the suffering and poverty that resulted from her mistake. Madame Forestier listens, then delivers a shocking revelation that changes everything. The necklace Mathilde borrowed wasn't made of diamonds. It was an imitation. Worthless. All the suffering Mathilde and her husband endured, the loans, the labour, the poverty, had been for a cheap piece of costume jewellery. The story ends there, leaving readers stunned by its cruel irony. Mathilde had sacrificed her youth and happiness for the illusion of wealth, her pride leading her to choose deception over honesty. And what was the cost of that choice? 10 years of her life, wasted for something that had no real value. But beyond the surface, Maupassant's tale goes deeper, unpacking themes that resonate far beyond 19th century France. First, there's irony, the driving force behind the story's emotional impact. At the heart of The Necklace lies a cruel twist. Mathilde's suffering was entirely unnecessary. She could have admitted the loss to Madame Forestier from the beginning, saving herself years of anguish. But her pride and her obsession with appearances kept her trapped in a lie. The irony underscores how often people create their own misery through false assumptions and misplaced priorities. Then there's materialism and the illusion of wealth. Mathilde truly believes that luxury is the key to happiness. She views expensive dresses and diamonds as symbols of identity, equating material possessions with personal worth. But the story shatters this illusion, showing how her pursuit of wealth leads only to ruin. Maupassant's critique is clear. Happiness doesn't come from glittering surfaces. It comes from within. And let's not forget the theme of social class and status anxiety. Mathilde's longing for wealth isn't just about jewels and gowns. It's about what they represent. Her downfall represents the dangers of chasing a status defined by others, a tragic lesson about the pressures of conformity and the rigidity of social divisions. At the heart of it all is the theme of pride and vanity, the true root of Mathilde's suffering. Her pride prevents her from admitting the loss of the necklace. It blinds her to reason, convincing her that deception is better than humility. Maupassant shows us how pride can lead not to triumph, but to ruin, creating problems far worse than the ones it aims to avoid. Finally, there's the lesson of fate and the consequences of small choices. Losing the necklace seems, at first, like a trivial mistake, a moment of misfortune during an otherwise perfect evening. But it changes Mathilde's life forever, a reminder that even the smallest decisions can have immense consequences. It's a lesson in responsibility and the importance of honesty, one that lingers long after the final sentence. In the end, the necklace is more than just a cautionary tale. It's a mirror, reflecting the flaws and aspirations that exist within all of us. Mathilde's tragedy serves as a reminder to cherish what we have, value substance over appearance, and approach life with humility. After all, happiness doesn't come from chasing illusions. It comes from embracing reality, even when it's imperfect. If you've ever felt torn between what you have and what you want, or struggled with the weight of pride and material desires, Mathilde Loisel's story can teach you something profound. Guy de Maupassant masterfully shapes her journey into an unforgettable parable, one that reminds us how, in the end, the only thing we can't afford is the truth. So, what's your take on The Necklace? Let us know in the comments below. And if you love stories with rich themes and sharp twists, don't forget to like and subscribe. We've got more literary breakdowns coming your way.